Okay, welcome back to Media Monday number 2. As you can tell, I've made a few changes. I did say that this would be an evolving thing, and after watching my video last week, I realized that the backlight probably wasn't a good idea. It caused a little bit of change of light reading on the computer. So anyway, I've decided to try a different room. This room actually is our somewhat new porch that we had built, and it is not heated. And so that's why I have a toucan. It's a little bit chilly. So today the whole goal is to start with the first of the 8 key concepts of media literacy. And I'll tell you that these originally came from this book written in 1989, a long time ago. It was actually the year after I graduated from high school. And that's the book that I started teaching media with. And that's why I stick to these 8 concepts. Like I said, I think last week they have changed a little bit. They've been adapted. Some lists are now 5, 6. They've kind of been combined. I'm going to stick with what I know and kind of how I've learned them and explain to you how because they do kind of interact with each other. So the first concept is quite a simple one. All it says is that all media are constructions. And I'll read it to you in a second, the concept, and then I'll try to explain it. Sometimes, though, my experience in teaching this was that it was almost like it was too simple. It was too simple of an idea, and it does kind of bleed into the next concept, and I'll try to avoid that myself, although sometimes it happens very naturally. And, some people will say, well, come on, everyone knows that. But I have to tell you that I was surprised when I taught. Remember, this was a grade 11 course that I taught, and I was regularly surprised that my students didn't know what an edit was. Right? They didn't understand the idea of things being edited together or what a cut was. So I do think that this is very important. And just so you know, I used to start, the way I would do it is I would have my students copy the definition into their notes because I'm a big believer. And of course, they would complain about it and try to take photos of it and whatever else, especially later on in my teaching. But I'm a firm believer that if you want to remember something, that writing it down really helps. Trying to get it into your head as many different ways as possible helps. But writing is certainly a good one. So I did it myself. I typed it out again. Haven't done it in quite a while. I used to always write it on the board for them each time. I didn't give a photocopy of it. I wanted to write it down, and it really did start to stick in my head. So here's what the concept says. I've edited it slightly just because the book's a little wordy. And by the way, that's the only thing I ever used out of this book were the concepts. One of the things I discovered as I taught the course is that media literacy textbooks, if you buy them, there might be good stuff in there for a year or two, but very quickly it becomes dated. And so it's best just to kind of come up with your own stuff. So this is what the concept says. All media are constructions. Perhaps the most important concept is that media do not present simple reflections of external reality. They present productions which have specific purposes. The success of these productions lies in their apparent naturalness. Although they appear to be natural, they are in fact carefully crafted constructions that have been subject to a broad range of decisions. From a technical point of view, they are often superb, and this, combined with our familiarity with such productions, makes it almost impossible for us to see them as anything other than a seamless extension of reality. We need to make the seams visible. So I would give them the concept, they'd write it down, and then, I try to explain it to them, which is really what I'm going to do here, how I understand it, pull out some important ideas. I'd often highlight, phrases that I thought were really important. And of course, the first idea is that media do not present simple reflections of external reality. Doesn't matter what it is. Kids would say to me, well, a photo, that's real. We've been taught this idea that photos don't lie. And I'm not suggesting that they lie, but they are shaped, right? They are constructed, whether it's the actual mechanical process of the camera doing it, or if it's the choices that the photographer makes. I am a photographer. I know that I construct photos, right? So we have to keep that in mind. All media are constructions. They do not present simple reflections of external reality. They have purposes, right? Usually someone sets out to, I want to get this out there. I want to say this. I want to do this. I want to tell this story, right? And within that would be even more purposes. Why they are successful is because they appear natural, right? And this is mainly because the people who make them are very good at what they do, right? We know that people in Hollywood, people who work in TV, they make a lot of money, right? And the main reason they make a lot of money is because they are very good at what they do. right? They are making these decisions that the concept talks about. One thing to do that I sometimes used to challenge my students to do, when you watch a movie, it used to be that you never sat through the credits. I'd be the only one there at the end of the credits. Of course, now with Marvel movies, they keep you there for the little surprise. But just look at the names. Look at the titles, right? Try to figure out exactly what are the decisions that these people are making. What does the caterer do? What does the grip do? What does the lighting person do? What does the casting person do? They are all responsible for certain decisions, and they're all very good at it, right? So, although they appear to be natural, they are in fact carefully crafted constructions. I love that phrase, mainly because of the alliteration, and it seems to be so important to me to remember with all media. They are carefully crafted constructions that have been subject to a broad range of decisions. From a technical point of view, they are often superb. Like I said, these people are very good at what they do. But it's also combined with this idea that we are familiar with it. We have so much media, we have so many screens, we have so many things in our life that are delivering media to us that we are incredibly familiar with it, right? And because of that familiarity, it makes it almost impossible for us to see them as anything other than a seamless extension of reality. It seems like real life, right? We don't, again, I used to talk about, I'm not sure this happens much anymore, but if you're familiar with the idea of a B movie, right? These are movies that are made very quickly. Often, you get one shot and that's it, and we're going to move on. And every once in a while in those films, if you watch them, you'd see the boom mic come in the top of the screen, right? That is not an example. That's the opposite of being really good at what you do. And of course, as soon as that happens, we're drawn out of it. Oh, it's a movie. We're reminded it's a movie, right? We're reminded that this isn't real. It's not a seamless extension of reality. And so I think that's really worthwhile to think about. And, when we talk about the mediums, of course, I should also focus that I'm not just talking about, the messages that we send, the films that we make, whatever it is. It can also be the actual thing like Facebook, Instagram, like that structure. Sorry, not sure what that noise is. That structure is a medium, but so are the posts that we put, the memes that we put up, the photos, the videos, all of those things are also mediums, right? So I used to use, and it's kind of fitting actually that I think about it, Survivor as an example. Survivor actually started not long after I started teaching media literacy and is still going today, right? Still a successful show. And the thing I liked about Survivor was that every once in a while, not even necessarily every season, something would happen that caught everybody off guard. The one that I remember was a guy who I think he breathed in some smoke by the fire and he fell into the fire and burned his hands quite badly. And what happens, of course, is that the cameras turn quickly. What's happening, right? And in those instants, sometimes you see, oh, well, wait a second, who are those three people? And there's a camera. Who are those three people? And there's a camera. And then you realize that there are 18 other people other than the cast members who are there most of the time, right? But they are so good at what they do that normally you never see them. Think about, there are those moments like I'm doing right now where it appears in the show like the people are just confessing, oh, I like this person, I don't like this person, I'm going to do that. One of the things I learned, partly because my wife had a documentary made about her, I can leave that for another time, is that when they are interviewed, right? Remember, there's usually three people involved in it. There's going to be the camera person, the sound person, and then I don't know if they call them a director, producer, whatever they are, the person asking the question, the interviewer. And when they ask the questions, they always say to them, please make sure you include part of the question in your answer, right? So if I ask you, why do you dislike so-and-so? Don't just say, because they're rude. Say, I dislike so-and-so because they're rude. And then you can go back, of course, and you can edit all the questions out. And then it seems like it's just this running commentary that's coming out of their minds without realizing that there have been prompts given to them, suggestions given to them. And we'll get into the actual shaping of the reality of what happens in the next concept. Like I said, it kind of bleeds into the other. So, that's the stuff that I find quite fascinating. I think I talked about this in the first video. By the way, if you got through the first video, thank you. I know it was rather long. I think the average time for people getting through was about 3.5 minutes, but that's okay. I'm going to stick with what I have planned and again, adjust as I go. So, keep that in mind with all media. And yes, this applies to news as well, right? Or Instagram Reels or TikToks or everything. There are decisions being made by people who are very good at what they do to make it seem like it's a seamless extension of reality. But if we can pull those seams out, right, we can start to reveal those seams, then we start to understand how it's a construction, right? All of these decisions play a role in what we think. Okay? So I'll leave that there, right? That's basically it. That's the most important part of it. I will tell you that, I used to have this cartoon that I liked showing, and I can't find it right now, but I'll describe it to you. It might have been a Far Side cartoon. And it was, a family and their dog and sitting on two couches staring at a blank wall. And the cartoon said, in the days before television, I'd often give this to my students and they'd be very confused by it. But the more we talked about it, the humor is in that because TV is such a big part of our lives. Screens are such a big part of our lives that we can't imagine a time before they were around, right? That we now have rooms in our houses that are designed specifically so we can all see the screen, right? And that's, again, that part about familiarity, right? So I think I've talked about most of the stuff I wanted to. Like I said, it's a simple idea. I don't want to talk too much. If you're interested before next week in doing a little work on your own or a little challenge, if you watch TV or film, count edits. See if you can actually see every edit in something. Think about pacing, right? Sometimes pacing has to do with the actual edits, how many edits per minute or whatever it is. We used to call it jolts per minute. So count those edits. Whatever you can do to kind of train yourself to figure out, well, how is this a construction? If you're reading an article, how has this article been put together? There's 3 different interviews here. There's quotations from different people. Somebody has constructed that, right? Again, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And also you start to appreciate more what they've actually done, the decisions that have been made. Like I said, when you watch your next favorite film, watch the credits. Look at all the names that are involved. Each one of those people is responsible for some sort of decision. All right. So I'm going to stop there. Remember, this concept was all media are constructions. As always, if you think what I'm trying to do is worthwhile, I would love it if you liked this page, if you followed the page. I'm not familiar with all the terms yet, whatever you need to do. If you want to share it, that would be awesome as well. My guess is that, as I said last week, the big companies are not going to want you to understand this stuff. It's not going to be something that's super promotable because you basically have to admit that you're part of this. So I'm going to rely on you, the viewers, to do that. Again, if it's worthwhile, please share it. I'll stop there. So thanks again. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk again next week. Bye now.